Burkhard Heim studied the internal workings of the psyche in great detail. This is not very well known, but was the key for him to integrate this part of human reality into his overall holistic view of the world. Many peculiarities of human behavior and even our physiological setup become understandable through this. Hello and welcome to 6 Dimensions in Color. My name is Schmid, and on this channel I present to you the worldview of Burkhard Heim in understandable language and with clear examples. In the earlier video about the levels of consciousness, I explained to you how the system of telecore syntroclines work. The more telecore syntroclines a being possesses, the higher its level of consciousness and the higher its complexity of behavior. That means the higher its degree of freedom in relation to his environment. I also explained to you the 4 instinct complexes of instinctual behavioral complexes, which are each a metroplex in Burkhard Heim's terms. These were self-preservation, self-development, species preservation, and the acquisitive drive. These 4 complexes or metroplexes are organized within the ill core, which represents the psyche of an entity. I only ever gave brief hints about the internal workings of the ill core, although I included subtle hints in every diagram I've shown you so far. The higher a being's level of consciousness, the more complex the internal networking of its instinct complexes becomes. This networking forms another system of syntroclines, which Heim called the control syntroclines. So within our organism, we have now 2 systems of these syntroclines which must not be confused. The one is the telecore syntroclines, which go like up-down between the psyche or the ill core and the body. They transport perceptions and reactions. And the other is the horizontal system of control syntroclines, which is always within one intellectual level and constitutes the internal workings of the psyche. As I said, the higher the complexity of an entity and its resulting ill core, the higher the interconnection of its instinct complexes. And Burkhard Heim went as far as counting the possible numbers of control syntroclines. He starts from the following idea. Each telecore syntrocline provides a sensory input into the ill core. And each of these activity streams, control syntroclines are activity streams, connects to a very specific of the instinct complexes. The instinctual complexes are therefore essentially charged up by the activity streams from the body, and now these activities must be processed. And this requires these dynamic bridges between the instinct complexes, which are the control syntroclines. But this also means that these bridges can only form between those complexes which are activated. And this leads to a straightforward combinatorics. If my being has only one telecore syntrocline, then only one of the instinct complexes can be activated, and this results in 0 control syntroclines. If it has 2 telecore syntroclines, then 2 of the complexes can be activated, and 1 internal control syntrocline can form. There are 6 possible combinations, 2 out of 4. And depending on the type of connection or between which complexes it is established, you get different kinds of metabolisms and basic physiological setup. At this level, we can, for example, distinguish between photoautotrophic plants, which do photosynthesis, heterotrophic fungi, which decompose their tissue, amoeba, which display hunting behavior and have a very interesting way of cooperating with other of their peer specimen to survive periods of drought. Then there are carnivorous plants, there are parasitic single-cell organisms, and you probably can think of other examples in the detail. If the being has 4 telecore syntroclines, then each of the instinct complexes becomes activated. And then I have 6 control syntroclines. This is the stage of animal life. On the next consciousness level, there are 8 telecore syntroclines, which means each of the instinct complexes is doubly connected. And this creates the complex behavior of the higher primates. Human beings, we have 16 teleconcentroclines by Burkhard Heim's count, and this constitutes for a number of 120 contracentroclines. Moreover, docking onto our psyche is the mental complex which allows us consciousness reflection over our own behavior. Now, Burkhard Heim also studied psychopathology, especially the pathology of sexuality. These considerations, combined with C.G. Jung's model of the libido, they led him to this very model in the first place. As human beings, we have certain problems which you all know of. There is always a certain repression of instincts. Those are activity streams which are kind of censored and cannot become conscious. For example, one of the resulting behavior is an aversion to one's own excretions. That's a behavior you do almost not observe in animals. You could say this is due to civilization, but then civilization only occurs if instincts are sublimated. If this specific kind of instinct sublimation succeeds, this may result in the construction of a sewage system, for example. Another example is, of course, sexual shame, which develops, as has been proven, quite independently of the upbringing of an individual under civilized conditions. The less mature approach is repression of sexuality, the more mature the introduction of rituals and rules for relationships. Instinctive energies which cannot be sublimated in such a constructive way, they may escape through other means, like in the harmless way through wild parties, binge drinking, or the red light district. If such events are not available, this may result in increased tendency to hate those which remind you of your repressed instincts and a greater readiness for violent behavior. All these phenomena, quirks and instinctual deviations, in Burkhard Heim's terminology, result from faulty synculations between the instinct complexes, or the control centroclines acting between them. Some are accessible or correctable through therapy, others are not. What Heim sought in all this must of course be integrated in his overall view of the world. The methodology of syntrometry allows to formulate these psychological findings in a language which makes them connectable to the physical realm and even to physical objectives. Rudimentary groundwork on this field was, for example, done by Wilhelm Reich, who observed that certain basal biological instincts may express themselves in sexual instinctual deviations. Based on these findings, he later developed his organ theory, though this is disputable, this theory is disputable. Interestingly, or rather unfortunately, Reich is more known for this rather uncertain and disputable organ theory than for his pioneering work in sexual education in Europe and North America. All such instinctual inhibitions are thus partly necessary, partly civilizational, and some are outright pathological. In terms of inner experiences, of course, these are all suppressed feelings and suppressed desires of all kinds. They may be accompanied by anxiety, may be rejected for moral reasons, or economic circumstances don't allow to express certain wishes. For example, someone might be yearning to travel to a distant country, or express musical or poetic talent, or become part of a community for which he does not feel himself worthy, or not daring to express affection to someone. If you want to work on your personal happiness and health in the long term, you need to take these issues seriously. And the best way to address them is NATHAL. NATHAL goes deeper, faster, and safer than any kind of conventional and unconventional therapy. And that's only the beginning of it. Go to my website, nathaltraining.ae, and subscribe to my Instagram channel to find out more. If the path to personal happiness is not sufficiently pursued, all these unlived thoughts and wishes will accumulate in the psyche or in the Ilkor as a kind of a static potential. And Burkhard Heim had a special word for this static potential. He called it the psychic residuum. Therefore, keep your residuum as small as possible and dare to live in 6 dimensions and in color.